Do you brush and floss every day but still get cavities? You're not alone, and I'm gonna explain why this happens. It turns out that cavities are a little bit more complex. It's not just about how often you floss or how often you eat sugar. Your genetics, your saliva, the bacteria in your mouth, all of these things play a major role. But the good news is once you understand exactly what's going on in your mouth, you can actually use these tools to help prevent you from ever getting cavities again. Most people assume that if you get cavities, it means that you're not brushing. I've had a lot of patients say, like, when I diagnose a cavity, they say, I promise I've been brushing my teeth. And I believe that. But your oral health, just like the rest of your body, is multifactorial. Meaning that two people can have the exact same brushing routine, and one of them might get cavities and the other one might not. In fact, one person could barely brush their teeth. They could brush their teeth like once a week. And the other person might brush 3 times a day. And that person that brushes 3 times a day could still be getting more cavities than that other person. So does that mean that brushing is not important? Obviously no. In fact, the biggest cause of cavities has nothing to do with brushing. The number one cause for cavities is actually your diet. And it doesn't even have to be sugar. Pretty much any time you eat something, your mouth is going to get acidic. And if you eat carbs, then it's going to feed the bad bacteria in your mouth. So let's start with carbs. So any carbohydrate, whether it's like rice, whether it's bread or crackers or goldfish, whatever the case is, all of these things can cause cavities just like sugar. Because the way all these carbohydrates work is they feed the bacteria in your mouth called Streptococcus mutans. These strep mutans will eat these carbohydrates and then they will poop out lactic acid. And this lactic acid is what sits on your teeth and dissolves them and causes cavities to form. A cavity is literally a hole inside of your tooth, and it's a hole that forms from this acid. And once you get that hole, you have more bacteria entering that hole, releasing more acid and destroying more and more of your tooth. Now, the biggest thing in regards to your diet is the frequency. It doesn't really matter what you eat as long as you don't eat it too frequently. But the more frequently you introduce carbohydrates and other acidic foods into your diet, the more it's going to damage them. So even if you have, like, let's say 1 can of Coke throughout the day, one person will drink it all in one sitting and the other person will sip on it throughout the day. It's much worse to sip on it throughout the day, even if the volume of the amount of Coke that you're drinking is the same. Because every time you even take a sip, a lot of sugar is going into your mouth and feeding those bacteria. And if you keep doing it throughout the day, you're just gonna do that more and more frequently. As opposed to if you do it all in one sitting, yeah, all that sugar is going into your mouth, but you're not gonna keep introducing it again and again. And this will give your saliva time now to build up, because your saliva is like a natural bodyguard for your teeth and your gums. And your saliva is super important. Now your saliva can come in and wash away all these sugars and bacteria, and it also carries minerals for your teeth and your gums. So this is why I always recommend to have like some sugars or whatever snacks, have it all at one meal. So have it during your meal time. So if you typically have lunch, try to have like your chips and other snacks that you typically eat throughout the day, try to have it all in that one sitting. Because anytime you eat, you have more saliva anyway. So you're already eating, already introducing these carbs. Now you might as well have these other cavity-causing foods during that meal while you have more saliva, because afterwards, now you don't have to worry about that frequency of introducing new foods, because now your saliva is gonna build up. So as long as you give your mouth some rest and some breaks, you should be fine. Now, obviously what you eat still matters. Like if you're eating more starchy foods, or if you're eating more carb-heavy foods, that's gonna cause more cavities. I'm not telling you to avoid carbs, I'm just telling you those can cause cavities. But if you do eat carbs, it'll be better to have whole grains, because whole grains have more fiber in them and they have a harder time of causing cavities. This is why most of our ancestors really did not get cavities, because their diet was mainly like meat, vegetables, and fruit. Very fibrous foods or very low carb foods. But if you swap that out for things like burgers, French fries, and Cheez-Its, then obviously the risk of cavities is gonna go way up. And even if you're having sugar-free things, like things that have 0 carbs in it, it can still cause problems with your teeth. So a lot of times people think they're fine drinking like a Coke Zero or diet sodas or like different sparkling waters. Sparkling water isn't going to be as bad, but all these drinks that have these flavorings, even if they have no sugar in it, they're still gonna be acidic. Now keep in mind, the reason that cavities form is from that lactic acid from those bacteria. So it's really acid that is destroying our teeth. Now the acid from these drinks might not cause a traditional cavity, but it can still destroy our enamel. And that's especially true if you drink it every single day. So if you drink like a sugar-free Coke every single day, this is still going to be wearing your enamel down. And once you lose your enamel, you do not get it back. And the enamel is like the outer protectant of your teeth. And the more thin that your enamel is, the more easy it is for you to get cavities from other things. So again, same thing, even if it's like a sugar-free beverage, just keep the frequency low. And I talked about the importance of your saliva and how your saliva carries these minerals and carries these nutrients and can help clean our mouth, and that's why you want to take breaks in between eating. Now, people with less saliva are going to be at a much higher risk of getting cavities. So a lot of times, for example, people are on a lot of medications and they start having really dry mouth. I see this all the time, especially with older patients, because for a long time they had no cavities, they had great oral hygiene. All of a sudden their doctor put them on different medications, and now all of a sudden they have a dry mouth and they start getting cavities. And the reason has to do with how important your saliva is, and this is often overlooked. So if you're on different medications that's causing a dry mouth, talk to your doctor and see if they can adjust something. But also another cause of dry mouth is mouth breathing. So if you regularly breathe in and out of your mouth as opposed to your nose, you're gonna have a way drier mouth. And that's because if you exhale out of your nose, it retains a lot of that moisture. Try fogging up a glass or something like that. As you're doing it, it'll probably look something like this. Now, if you try doing that with your nose, you notice that there's no fog on that glass because all of that moisture is being retained. So mouth breathing causes more dehydration, and it also dries up all the saliva in your mouth. So you're gonna be at a much higher risk of getting cavities if you're a mouth breather. So this is something that you can focus on throughout the day. Just focus on keeping those lips closed and breathing in and out of your nose. Now you can even do this at nighttime too, and there's different techniques of how you can switch over from being a mouth breather to a nose breather. I'm not gonna talk about that in this video because I did talk about it a lot in some of my other videos, so I'm putting some links in the description below if you wanna learn more about that. Now, what about genetics? I hear all the time patients say, oh, I have bad genes, so that's why my teeth are all rotting out. Genetics does not have as much of a role in your teeth as most people think, but it still plays a role. So genetic can play a role in how thick your enamel is. It can play a role in like the anatomy of your teeth. And it can even play a role in your saliva content. So if you're born with like really thin enamel, or you're born with really deep grooves in your teeth, that's gonna make it easier for you to get cavities because you already have less enamel, and then you're born with these really deep like pits and fissures in your teeth. That's gonna allow more bacteria to kind of get in there, and it's gonna be harder to clean. But I think what's even more important is like the microbiome, or the bacteria in your mouth and in your saliva. Not all bacteria in your mouth are bad. Some of them are actually really good for you. But people who are cavity prone are more likely to have some of these bad bacteria. But again, this comes down more to your diet, because if you have a bad diet, if you're eating more carbs and starchy foods more frequently, you're gonna let those bad bacteria win more than those good bacteria. So if this sounds like you, like you're brushing and flossing and trying to do all the right things, but you're still getting cavities, what can you do? One thing you can start doing that's really simple is start chewing gum, specifically a gum that has xylitol in it. There's two reasons for this. First, when you chew anything, it's gonna start stimulating saliva. And we already know the importance of saliva. But let's say you have this after a meal. Now this is gonna be great because during your meal you have saliva, but now after, if you start chewing this gum, it's gonna help keep producing that saliva so you can help keep all that food and everything clean. Now, specifically a gum that has xylitol is even better because xylitol is the only sugar substitute that actively prevents cavities. Because when the strep mutans bacteria eat xylitol, they actually die. So this is a simple thing, but it can really help. Now, obviously at the same time, you can focus on the timing of your meals and try to just focus on eating all your food during one meal time and then not snacking on anything in between. And even drinking anything, try to just drink normal still water, and if you're gonna have one of those flavored drinks, try to have that during your meal time as well. And also try focusing on having a diverse, healthy diet. Having a healthy diet isn't just good for your body, it's also good for your teeth and your gums. Because your teeth and your gums need quality nutrients too. And obviously we already talked about other ways to improve your saliva, like talking to your doctor about certain medications that you might be taking, and if not that, then also focusing on not mouth breathing as much. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked that video. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel below, and I will see you in the next video. If you've ever winced from like an ice cream cone or drinking cold water, then you probably know how brutal sensitive teeth can be. Now, think for a second. Imagine tiny little nanobots like swimming inside of your teeth and plugging up whatever's causing that sensitivity. I know, sounds like science fiction, right? Well, this might be a